All right, I want to start the character pose stuff. That way, as you're rendering your stick out, you can always jump on another station and get your character poses going, or you start thinking about that process. These should take about 4 days to do, 4 classes to do. Each pose will take 1 day, I'm estimating, so that's 3 days. And then you probably take 1 day to set up the character, okay? So September 28th, the poses will be due. The idea with this is that we're utilizing a character rig to recreate poses for a character. First step, we're going to find a rig that you can use. I talked about that last class, I believe. We're going to prep the character. That's what I'm going to go over today. Gather references. I'll show you ones that we need to find. They'll have 3 different kinds of poses. One will be like a model photography. So you think of someone like leaning against a brick wall or sitting a certain way, those kinds of poses. An action pose photo, and then an emotional pose. We'll pose the character to line up with these, creating lights, render them out, and then make sure that the character looks nice. A lot of the characters have quality control, so you might be working with the blocky version, but we want to see the smooth version kind of thing when we render it. So you'll turn in your research. You'll turn in your scene, your images, your source images, and reference images. By the end of this, I should have 3 still renderings and 3 reference images. That way I can see this was your rendering, this was the end result, and see what those 2 things look like. Each image will be 3,000 by 2,400 each. If you wanted to combine them, like let's say you were able to figure out a way to put all 3 poses in the same shot, you would render that out at triple the size, okay? At least wide or tall, whichever way it seems to work out best to give them the right resolution. Or you can render them all 3 separate and put them all together in one image. And then 10 points possible. Okay, so that's in the book. This is, oops, I closed that window. This is another rig that I found. Some of these are out here too. This is Ray. And this one you have to go to this website, and then you're able to register on the site, and then you're able to download and use that rig for educational purposes. Okay, so there's other rigs out there too, not just the ones on Creative Crash. On the Canvas modules, I have how to set up Andy, how to set up another one, and then I'm going to do Ray, if it works. Modules. And that way you can see a variety of them. There you go. So I have one for how to set up Jerry, I have one for how to set up Andy, and then I'll have one for Ray, as long as it works out. I've never used Ray before. I just downloaded him. We'll see. If not, it's going to be the exact same process for Jerry, the exact same process for Andy, and the exact same process for Ray. This is one of those things that people love to skip, and I'm not sure why they love to skip it, because I guess they like to go back and redo a lot of work. But that's on you if you like to do that. There's my scenes. Where is this one? All right, so here's what Ray comes with. He comes with a shelf. He comes with his Maya file, and then he comes with these icons. And he also has instructions. Some of these, like I mentioned, will have these kinds of things where it'll say, here's the instructions, here's where to put stuff. Now, on here it's saying, see users, name, documents, Maya. You can ignore all this stuff because our Maya folder is actually in a different spot. On your computers, they're right on the P drive. On my computers, they are inside my documents. So I'm going to put them in the correct folder. So this is going to copy the Ray shelf into my 2019 preferences shelves. So I'm going to copy my Ray shelf and paste it in there. And then the other thing says the folder icons should go into the prefs icon folder. There it is. So I'm going to copy these, paste those in there. And then I'm going to copy my Ray file and drop that into my character project I already set up. So I already made a character project. Going into the scenes, that's where Ray is going to sit. He's right there. And now I can go into here, and then I can go to open, and then open up Ray. Now my shelf didn't load. Most likely because I needed to reboot Maya. I just copied that stuff in there. If I rebooted Maya, it would all come in. None of the stuff I'm going to do right now is going to affect my... I don't need the shelves for it. That's mainly for animation stuff. But basically, it would be a shelf allowing me probably to click different parts of Ray a lot easier. Click his hand, and then it'll grab the hand and open it up. This is taking a long time for Ray to open. Hopefully, it works quick. There we go. And I am getting some errors down here. That might just be stuff that was connected to the shelf. I don't know. Okay. So we have 2 outliners. I'm going to just hide one of these. There we go. I want to look at the controls here, just like we talked about before. Now you'll see on Ray, it looks like his default setup is to have FK set up. So I can grab the things and rotate them. That's his default. Oops. And probably this little cube is where I can change this IK arm to 1, and now I have an IK arm that I could then move around. Okay? So that's important because I need to know how to change that. I'm going to set up both. The rest of his controls look pretty standard. No need to play with that. Just make sure this works. Yep, good. Okay. Now you may get into an issue where you're moving your character around and it just does something weird. Like for instance, there are some characters where you'll grab their foot and you'll lift it up like this and the foot will move but the leg won't move. Okay? And that's just a hardware glitch. If you go to your preferences and you go to display animation, there it is. You go to display animation here. On the very top it says evaluation mode parallel. Changing this to DG typically takes care of it. If it doesn't, you can try serial and see if that takes care of it. And if it doesn't work on any 3 of those, then there's something wrong with your rig. Most of the time, that's the one it does. Mary, if you downloaded the Mary rig, she's typically the one we have an issue with, where she does act kind of funny. All right. So now I'm going to turn this wireframe off. I don't want to see that. He is referenced, so I can't select the geometry, so I'm going to unreference it. And then I'm going to click on his geometry and then hit Control-A. I want to see what kind of materials are on here. Now if I scoot down to the end here, I'll see these are blends. Blends are Maya default material, not default, but Maya basic materials. They're not Arnold materials. So that means that it's not going to render nice, the lighting doesn't work correctly, all that stuff. Here's another blend. He didn't name any of these apparently. So here's a Lambert, here's a Lambert, here's a Lambert. The good thing is, looking at Ray, it doesn't look like there's any actual like materials or textures. Everything looks like it's just flat coloring, which is good for us. It's less work that we have to do on that end. Okay. So I need to basically grab every piece of him that is the color of his shirt and reassign a new material, whatever color I want the shirt to be. Okay. Now there's a quick way to do this. I'm going to go to the Hypershade. And this assignment, repetition is going to be key. Lots of repetition all over the place on this one. All of these up here in the materials, those are all the different materials that Ray comes with. So I'm going to just slide this off to the side for a second. There's this hair, right? Here's this one says hair. I'm going to right click on it and say select objects with material. And what should happen, oops, it actually grabbed just his eyebrows, so that must just be his eyebrow hair, is it grabs whatever material, whatever objects that material is assigned to, it grabs. So now I can just make a new material for that. So I'm going to go to add assign new material. Go to Arnold Shader, go to standard surface, and call this what it is, eyebrows, bros. And I'll put an underscore AI at the end. That way I know it's an Arnold material. AI is just Arnold's abbreviation. Okay, standard surface. And then I can just give this the color of his eyebrows. And I can just do, you know, this probably this brown here is good. I don't want it shiny, so I want to take that roughness up. And I can even take maybe the weight of that down, so his eyebrows don't come out shiny. So now this one is no longer used. There's nothing there, okay? So I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to go to the next one. Here's Blend 2. I'm going to right click, select object. I'll zoom out. I'll go into wireframe and hit F, and I don't see anything. So this one might actually not be used on anything that is part of his geometry. It might be a controller or something. So I'm just going to ignore that. Right click the next one, select object. There's his head. Okay, and again, it's all the same color, so I don't need to worry about changing anything else. It's just that color. So I'm going to assign a new material. Go to the standard surface. Go here, head underscore AI. Do the color. Eye drop. There's the skin. Maybe we'll lighten this up a little bit more. A little more that way. This way. All right. And then the same thing, let's take the roughness up. Take the weight of it down. And that one's good. Initial shading group, we don't need to touch. That's just the default in Maya. Don't touch that. Lambert 1, don't touch that. Particle cloud, don't touch that. Okay? Every scene has these three things in it. You can't delete them. Don't play with them. Now we'll go to this one. Select the objects. Now this actually might be the same color as his skin. So I might be able to just right click on head, there it is, and assign that material. If that's the same color, I can just do that, and now those are the same material. Okay? It's actually looking not the same color I picked, is it? No. There we go. All right, that's good, that's good, that's good. All right, here's buttons. I'm going to select. Oops, there's a button on his pants. So assign new material. To speed up that process of assigning new material, and this window keeps popping up, I'm going to go here. I'm going to right click on standard surface and add this to my favorites. Now, instead of having to open that window, I can just go to assign favorite material, and there it is. So that will save you hours of time. Button. AI. And this is probably closer to like a black. This could actually be a little bit shinier, so I'll leave the shininess where it is. We're going to pretend I forgot where I was. I don't know where I left off, even though I can see this one says head, this one says button. This one I've apparently forgot to label. These eyebrows. I apparently did not label the eyebrows. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the Hypershades edit menu and say delete unused. And what that does is it finds any material that's not being used and just deletes it. That way I know if it deletes the top third of them, then I probably left off at the next one. So delete unused. It's thinking. And there we go. Okay, Blend 2 was the one that didn't have anything on it. I don't touch these three. So right there on Ray Eyeball. Now I'm going to check something as I'm going here just to see. On the Andy rig, Andy is all texture based. So pretty much like his eye color, everything is based off of some sort of texture. So I want to see if there's anything actually in here. So I'm going to go to the textures window. And this is definitely empty. There's nothing connected here. If you chose the Andy rig or something else that has textures, you would see textures inside there, okay? Then I would click on this, and I can hit this double arrow, and it'll show me all the textures and how they're connected, okay? So again, it'll show you how those things are brought together. I'm going to do this again another way, just to show you, because there's multiple ways to do these things. I'm going to grab the material for the eyes. I'm going to change this to eyeball, AI, and I'm just going to pick from this list. So I can go in here and just choose standard surface. And now it'll automatically cycle into the other one, eyeball. Yeah, there we go. And then I can leave this as white. I can make this less shiny, so I just brought the shininess down. And then I left the roughness, a little bit further down. So I don't want it to be like glass, but I want it to be a bit bright. And then I'll go to the next one. So I'll go to hair. Change this to AI standard surface. to my swatch. And I'm just going to pick that same brown that I had on the other one. I guess that's not the same brown, is it? No. There we go. And I'll take the roughness up. Here's his iris. Let's see, he has brown eyes? Yes, he does. Now, I'm going to go a little bit fancier here. So this wasn't included in there. Was it just the outside of it? Let's see. Oh, yeah, iris border. Iris, huh. So I'm going to give this a color just to see exactly what is this material. So that's the border there. I don't know why the other one's called border. I'm going to come back and edit that. Now we'll go to this one. I'll change this to AI standard surface. There it is. And then that's that one. Okay, so this is like the inner part of his iris, and the other part was just that border. They could have done it all in one. I'm not sure why they did, but whatever. I'm going to go to the color and map, and I'm going to put a ramp on this. I need to hit 6 so I can see it. There it is. I want to make this a U ramp. We'll see if this works. That's going that way, yes. It's going that way. Circular ramp. There we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I can see there's a gradation from here outward. I'm going to pull this black in a little bit more. Oh, that's the inside. I'm going to pull this white in. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to replace the white. So I'm just going to click on the map. Anytime you see this little map icon, you can map something to that. And a lot of the advanced materials will have this item mapped to this item, mapped to this item, mapped to that item to create these really complex networks. So in here, I'm going to add a fractal. And now you'll see his iris has actually some sort of pattern to it. I want this to look more like lines like we would have on an iris. So I'm going to go to the Place 2D texture. And I'm going to change my repeat. It's probably V, but I'm going to change the first one first just to make sure. Yep, it was. Okay. Maybe it wasn't. Let me jump back to my ramp. I'm going to make this a U ramp. I guess that's going to be good enough for this. Yeah, that'd be good enough. Okay, I'm going to hit the back button here at the bottom. And then I'm going to give this a color. So if I go under color balance, I can go to color gain and give this a color. And you'll see how it just tints the eye a little bit. Now, we're not going to be that close to his face, so the fact that it doesn't look like a perfect iris doesn't matter. He's going to have this bluish kind of color here. Then I can go back to this and just kind of tweak these and how they're blending from one to the other. Oops. Oh, it was circular ramp I wanted. Not radial, circular. There we go. All right, that's good enough for now. And where's the iris? Here. And then this is going to be like that color. All right, so it just gives a little bit more interest to the eyes, so they're not just flat coloring. Next thing is his mouth. And you see this process is pretty straightforward. You're just reassigning the materials, basically. Now, I don't see anything changing here. It most likely is probably like the inside of the mouth. Let me see. Right-click. There it is. Select. Yep, so that's the inside of the mouth, so I definitely want to have this more of a reddish color, pinkish reddish color. Like that. You could have some shininess to it, maybe pull it down a little bit. Let's go to the next one, nails. Let's go a little bit darker on that. Okay, what else? Pants. It's good. Not shiny pants. Let's soften that. Here's his pupil. So this is going to be a solid black. So let's make sure he changes first. Black. And I don't know. We'll leave the roughness where it is. Shirt. And depending on which character you pick, Andy actually doesn't have that many textures. He has a lot, but not that many that are actually used. Shirt. I forget how many Jerry had. We're going to go with just this yellow-blue color. Not shiny. There we go. And shoes. We'll leave brown shoes. These will be gray. That's the bottom of the shoes. And I think the last one is this one, which I'm not sure. Teeth is right there. There we go. I'm going to see what that other one does. Standard surface. This is like a beige color. And if I forgot what that was supposed to be, I'm just going to right click and select. Those are his teeth. So probably not a beige color. I don't know what I was thinking there. White is good. Okay. Teeth. And these ones could be maybe half roughness or something. It's good. And then let's see what this is. Select objects. Okay, I don't see anything. Oh, it's this box. Okay, which is nothing right now. All right, so now I'm going to delete unused again, just to verify that nothing is hanging out that shouldn't be. All right, there we go. And then I'm going to save this as Sarcona_Ray materials. Okay. Oops. Some of these that you get, they don't want to be changed. So this was originally an MA file, which is Maya ASCII. My default is Maya binary, which is a different kind of Maya file. So I'm going to make sure that I save it as an MA file, and then it won't freak out. There we go. And what happened to him? Like so much stuff now. Oh, that's his head. Where did Ray go? There he is. I right-clicked here and then it said select objects, and then I hit F. I'm not sure what that big square was or why that took me away, but it seems to be good now. Like clicking on this and hitting F should have brought me to him, but I guess maybe I have to go inside and grab that. Yeah, so I would have grabbed this one that says do not touch, and I can hit F. It'll jump me to him. I don't know what was way over there. Some other controls. All right, so that gives us part of the deal to get Ray set up. The other part is going to be a way for us to speed up our animation process. As we animate a character, we're typically going to be grabbing, let's say, 20 different items on him to get him in the exact spot for one step. And then when he goes to the other step, we gotta grab those 20 items again and switch feet, let's say. So every time we do that, we don't want to have to go through and click on each one and hit S to set a key or grab each individual thing. We want to hit S and set keys on everything, okay? So we're going to group basically all the items we're going to keyframe and put them into what are called character sets. And those character sets will speed up your animation workflow tremendously, okay? So I'm going to go down here. This is where character sets are typically will live. These are other things, these clusters. Andy didn't have those. I don't think Jerry had those either. but Ray does apparently, and he's using these as ways to help rig this character. So ignore the clusters if you use this guy. I'm going to make my own character sets. So under animation, under key, I'm going to go to create character set. And typically I'm going to click the right button. I clicked the wrong button. There we go. We're going to go give this a name. So Jerry is an appropriate name. And I'm going to make sure nothing is selected and just hit create. Okay, now that creates a character set down here called Jerry. Now I'm going to create some sub-character sets. Now I go to this one. And I'm going to do lower body. I'm going to do upper body. And then I'm going to do head. Those are typically the 3 character sets that you'll use for any rig that you get. You could break it down even further and have like a hand. You could break it down and have left arm, right arm, that kind of thing. But for the most part, those 3 will get us where we need to go. Over here in the outliner, you'll see there's a Jerry character. Here's head, here's lower body, and here's upper body. Okay? So now we're going to populate each one of these fields so that Maya will know when I hit S to set my key, it'll set keys on just the head, just the lower body, or just the upper body. Okay? So I'm going to add in all the stuff that I would need. I'm going to start at the lower body area. So I'm going to go down here, switch this to lower body. I'm going to grab all the stuff that's lower body stuff. Now I can do both legs at the same time if it's the same control. So both feet are going to have the same exact named controls typically. Okay? You'll see this doesn't say like left or right foot bank. It just says foot bank. Okay? Then I'm going to add into, or I'm going to select over here anything I think I will use to animate. Now I don't know what I'm going to use to animate, but I'm going to just grab everything here. I don't need this auto stretch. That's like a on or off kind of thing. I won't use that. And this body space, I'm not even sure what that does. I'm not going to use it. Okay? So I'm going to highlight all these things. I'm going to go to key and say add to character set. Now in here under my lower body, it added all those attributes to that character set. Okay? Now if I go back here, I'm going to see what's on there. Foot scale. Do I want to scale the foot? No, I don't want to do that. It's neat that you can do that, but I don't want to do that. These here are kind of like adjustment controls. So if the character needed to, like, they're sitting Indian style and you just needed to like move the leg a little bit just to make it sit correctly, you could use those. I'm not going to use those, so I'm going to ignore those. Same thing here with the knee. You know, you could adjust the knee further. I'm not going to use that. This is probably the same thing. Yep. Same thing. Here's the hips. Okay. And then this is another hip controller. This one here is the one that I want. So this one allows me to basically make the character like kneel down and move the entire body. The other one that is right here, if I do this, it just moves the hips down, and that doesn't look very realistic when you're animating your character. Okay? So I want this one. I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to add that into my character set. Add to. Andy and Jerry have the same controls so far. They have foot controls, they have this hip control, and they'll also have these, which are the knee aim controls. Okay, so this is controlling where the knee is pointing. Translates, yes, that's good. Add to character set. Okay, so now that should be all the lower body stuff. Anytime I animate the lower body, I'm going to be grabbing these feet here. Let me see what these do. This is just translates and rotates. Yep, I'm not going to use that, I don't think. And the same thing here. This is, oh, I might use that. Let me see. Foot roll. No, I'm going to be using foot roll. I'm not going to use that other one. Okay. That one's for, I guess, if I needed to just, for whatever reason, rotate his foot up like this. He has his foot against a wall or something like that. I wanted, whatever. I guess I can throw it in there just for fun. In case I need it, I can always have it there. It's easier to add stuff that you don't need and then just remove it later than to have to go back and remember what you didn't add. These pant ones, I don't know. I'll consider that as I get into posing it. All right, so that's lower body. I'm going to switch now to upper body. And I'm going to grab all the upper body stuff. So I know I'm going to need this. So I'm going to grab that and add that to my character set. Okay. And to verify, I go under upper body, and you'll see there's the upper body stuff I just added. Now there's a bunch of controls here. I don't know what any of these do. It looks like there's a lot of just similar things. So this is rotating this, rotating that. Okay, so I'll need that. What is this one? Same thing, just higher up. Yep, okay. What does this one do? This is probably just fine adjustments. Yep, right there. That one already added. There's also some joints right here. I guess if I'm trying to make it look like he's a little bit stretchy, I could use those. I'm not going to use those. I want these ones, it looks like. So these two I want. Those rotates, and add those to the character set. I want these shoulder blades. Let me see what the position does. I should be able to get away with just rotating, I would think. Okay, but again, it's easier to add more and then take them out later or ignore them. And then the arms, I want to make sure that they're set into IK for this thing. So I'm going to grab those and add that to the character set. Go to this one, add this one to the character set. Grab the elbow constraints. That's which way the elbow is pointing, just like the knee. And then I'll add that. Something about this class. A lot of burritos. All right. I do need to add the FK also. So I'm going to switch this. I'm going to grab the little cube. Switch that to 0. Grab this little cube. Switch that to 0. And then I'm going to grab these. That should be all the ones I need for rotating the arm. And this. Rotate. And add that to the character set. Okay, so now as I animate my character, I have the option to go with FK, which is rotation, or I have the option to go with IK to make him actually just move his hand somewhere and grab something. When we do the walk cycle, we'll use IK for the legs and FK for the arms. I also need to grab the fingers. Let's see what this is. Oh, that just grabs all of them, apparently. Yep, I would not use that. I would not use that at all. I don't know why that's even there. Let me reference this again so I don't accidentally select it when I do this. And then rotate. All right, so I need the rotations in there. Now this one doesn't look like he has any kind of extra hand controls. Maybe on here. Oh, there they are. So here is arch. What? That's weird. Here's splay. Here's fist. Here's split. Okay, so some of these I would use. I think I can just get away with just grabbing these. But like I said, we always want to just have more than less. I don't need the scales. I'm definitely not going to scale this up. So I'll grab that. I will add this to my character set. And grab this one, do the same thing. And then I'm just going to grab all the curves for the fingers here, and all the curves for the fingers here. And I'm just going to grab the rotates. I shouldn't need any of the translates or scales. It's not typically something you would do. Of all the joints, of all the controls that we use, the pelvis is one that will actually move up and down. The end of the foot will move up and down, and then the end of the hands will move up and down, but everything else is going to be rotations, okay? If we moved any of these, it would create a very unrealistic looking character. If I were to grab this and just move it, you know, that would look weird. But obviously you have the ability to do that with this rig. All right. I believe that should be it for him. Maybe not yet. Maybe we need this. Let's see. Yep, so I want that one too. So let me grab this. Now I can tell which ones have been added. As I select them, you can see the color change over here. Right now there's no color. Once I add it, it gets that yellowy color. Everything in Maya is color-coded. So red, if you remember, is keyframes. Salmon is there's keyframes, but we're not on the frame. And then yellow is character sets. All right, so that's we need. This one I think is probably a head one. Yep, that's head. Okay, so now we can switch to the head. And now I can grab all the head stuff. So this. I'll just grab these and add that into the list. Let's grab this. What does this one do? Probably just rotates the jaw open. See, I wouldn't want to move that, but I could definitely rotate it. There we go. I'm not going to grab everything for the face. I'm not going to do that much. If you decide later on you want to, you can always add these things in later. The walk cycle, it's very simple. You don't want to have a lot of movement in the face. But things like closing the eyes, I do want to have in case I decide to make the character blink. So I'm going to grab these two controls here, and attach these to my head character set. I also want to grab this. This is typically going to be an eye constraint. So like, what is he looking at? As I move this left, down, up, and right, you can see his eyes are moving. Sometimes on this controller, you'll actually see like the blink set up over here. So it'll be like one slider to make him blink. This one doesn't look like he has it. But we can do individual controls too if we wanted to make him cross-eyed apparently. All right, let's see what that back one does. So scaling, yes, rotate. Yep, so we'll take that one too. We'll go to, I'll do translate on here too. Not that I'm going to use it, but that might be a fun one to add in, just a little bit of exaggeration. Add to character set. And I think this one is like a stretching one. Usually they'll have that. Yep. So I could add that too if I wanted to give them a little bit of deformation. That should be good. Okay. Like I said, you could add all of these as needed. If you really want to get into some facial animations, they have, all the mouth movements here. Nope, that. I guess that is that. There it is. Right? Most of the time, I'll just kind of move these into a spot and leave them there. There we go. I don't think I need to do anything with his ears. I can just leave those as well. Yep. All right, so that should be it. Under head, I have all the head controls. Under lower body, all the lower body. Under upper body, I have all the upper body. So now I'm going to go and save this again. Save scene as. Make sure it's an MA file and call it Sarcona. Oops. Ray ready to pose. Okay, so now all of that is the first step. In order for us to set keyframes, to do any kind of animation, to put him into any kind of poses, we have to have him set up so that it makes our job a lot easier. Okay, just so you can see where this goes, watch how if I were to select Jerry, for instance, and I were to hit S, it sets 163 keys. So automatically it's going through that whole list and setting keyframes on all those, so I don't have to worry about selecting the right things and forgetting something. So if I wanted to make him move, I could slide up here, grab this, make his foot here, set a key, and then go up here. This is not an animation. This is, this is just me screwing around. Set a key there, and then there we go. Okay, so I've just been able to set keyframes very quickly on those things. And that's just his foot. I didn't control the hips, the spine, all the other stuff that goes into making a walk cycle work. Now then what's cool about this too is that we can actually hammer down into just upper body, just head, or just lower body. When we do our walk cycle, we'll do lower body first, just like the bouncing ball. Get the lower body to look like it's working, and then we'll move up to upper body, and then we'll move up to head. So we'll be able to tackle these one area at a time, and then we're able to loop them so that we can actually have them walk for a very long time if we chose to, okay? And now I need to reset my keyframes. So go here, delete, go here, and delete. And I believe Jeff asked last time about, can there a way to reset it so that we can have it just in the T-pose at the beginning? Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe I'm just delirious. Someone was. If I go to negative, let's say 50, go here, and then I set a keyframe, now I have that pose right here set. So at any point, he's going to be set in that pose. I can go back to 1, do all my animations, and if I need to get back to that original pose, I still have it there. Usually what I'll do is I'll take a character and leave him in a pose like that. If I was going to put anything dynamic on him, I want to put a cape, I want to put a flag, I want to have a shirt or pants or hair or anything like that, dynamically moving. He needs to stay in this pose just to let all those things settle. So that's why I always typically will keep that pose resting way in the background. All right, so he's good to go. So I can just save this. And there we go. Thinking. For your poses, Pinterest, and this, and poses. So here are some photography poses. Something like this, something like that. They're pretty simple poses. There's not a whole lot of like contortion going around or going on in them. It's very like simple, straightforward. It really gives you the opportunity to focus on just getting the character into these poses, understanding their controls, understanding the lighting better, understanding what makes it look good. And then once you have these poses, then the next step would be to look for action poses. Okay? We'll get into that, but that's the next step. An action pose is something where if you looked at it, you'd be able to see like, holy cow, there's a lot of movement going on in this thing. So something like this is an action pose, okay? The person's dancing, they have their arm up, they're about to fall over. There's a lot of weight balance in here as to where his foot is, where his hip is, where his other hand is, that makes him feel like he's actually standing up straight and not about to fall over. There you go. There's another action pose. She's jumping in the air, about to hit a volleyball. Again, look at where the hips are, how they're twisted, how the spine is twisted, where her hands are, where her feet are. Here's a pole vaulting one. Sitting on a car is not an action sport. You do want to find one that is full screen, like the person is entirely in the shot. If you can find one from like a 3/4 angle, that's best. This one, it's hard to see what her legs are fully doing on the side, but you can pretty much guess what they're doing. If you just had like the upper body, you can't know what the lower body's doing. If you have just lower body, you don't know what the upper body's doing. So find something that has some good action to it. Usually people go for like kung fu punching. Kung fu punching. Oh, horrible. Well, there we go. Boom. Or kicking. Or like that. Right? Good action poses. You should be able to tell if you were to just outline the person, you just drew the silhouette, you should be able to tell what that action is based off of just that silhouette. Okay? From the picture you may not, but when you render your stuff you should. And we'll get into the rendering part. Here's some, oh, look at that. Okay, good upper body, but we can't see what the lower body's doing, so that picture wouldn't be any good. We have to find one like that, where he's falling into the ropes. And then the last one is going to be a little bit trickier to find. Pose reference. So these ones you're typically going to find them as an illustration, okay? You can find them as photos, but they're very difficult to get because there's not a whole lot that have some sort of emotion content to them without being just like, you know, depressing, I guess. So something like that. There we go. So something like this one, like he's desperate, this one he's frustrated, this one he's giving up, that kind of thing. That will be your emotion. So you'll use that image, one of these images, as your reference for it. So if you can find a photo of it, great. Typically, it's harder to find the photos of those. Okay, but it should be some sort of emotion, happiness, sadness, fear, that kind of thing. There's another one. There's another one. Okay, for your other ones that want actual photos, for this emotion one, you should be able to find at least an illustration of that emotion. Cool questions? No? All right.